Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bill Ott. I'm the current chair of ISCMEM. A couple of matters that we just have to talk about because it's security related. If the building gets evacuated, whether it's real or a drill, everybody sticks together. We're either instructed to stay in place or leave the building, and there's a place to congregate. We'll all go out together, take your computers or whatever it is with you, because who knows when we get back into the building. So, simple procedure, stay here, go with us, and we'll show you where to go. Anything else I'm supposed to say, Tom? That's it. All right. I'd like to start with this 11th of our annual public meetings for ISCMEM. It's the Interagency Steering Committee on Multimedia Environmental Modeling, by introducing our temporary assistant, what is it anyway? Deputy director. Having trouble with that deputy word. Our current deputy director for the Office of Nuclear Regulatory Research. He's been part of one of these SES rotational programs, and he'll give us some opening remarks.
Well, good morning. Glad to be here. My name is Brian Holian. A little bit of background, just so you know who's up here introducing you or introducing the conference on Monday morning. I worked at Calvert Cliffs after getting out of the nuclear Navy, so I was on the industry side for a while. Came to headquarters here and worked in project management. Licensed Comanche Peak Unit 2, one of the last ones to be licensed by the NRC. Worked up in a variety of jobs. Ended up working with Chairman Jackson on her staff, if you know Chairman Jackson from Shirley Jackson from a while back. Then I went out to the Region 1 for 9 years. So I'm Philadelphia raised, not an Eagles fan. Middle of the career, thank goodness. I was out there for 9 years in a variety of jobs out there, and the reactor jobs and nuclear materials in the last year out of Philadelphia there. And came back 3 years ago to my current job, which is Director of License Renewal in Nuclear Reactor Regulation. So my job's to evaluate taking plants from 40 to 60 years with many of their issues, and even working with DOE a little bit now on looking at 60 to 80, believe it or not, on that. A month or so ago, I came over to research just for a 3-month rotation. The normal deputy, Jennifer Ewell, is out in Region 3 doing a 3-month rotation, so she's out in Chicago enjoying that cool weather, and I'm glad to be here in research. I've been familiar with research quite a bit through my career. And familiar with the environmental, in particular, research that you do. I know in Region 1, we'd often look back to some of the contentious meetings we have out there with tritium issues and pipe breaks and issues in the environment, and reach back to our cohorts in research. I just have a few opening comments, but before I do, I figured on a Monday morning I'd start with a story. So this was a story I heard about the 10th annual conference, okay? So this is what I heard, that at last year's conference, there were 3 reps from DOE and 3 reps from EPA that were coming to the conference, and they were traveling by train to get here. And they met on the platform and kind of knew each other, of course, a small community. And the EPA folks went up and each one bought a ticket, so they got 3 tickets for the train. And the DOE folks went up and came back with 1 ticket. And EPA said, how are you going to do that? DOE said, don't worry about it, you watch. So they all board the train, they sit down. A couple minutes before the train's to take off, all 3 of the DOE guys go up and get in the lavatory all together. Okay, the EPA folks are just watching this. So the train starts going, and sure enough, the conductor comes by. He sees the light lit up, gets the EPA tickets, knocks on the door and says, "Ticket, please." The door opens up a little bit, and 1 ticket comes out. Okay, and the door shuts. So EPA folks thought, those DOE folks, they're great. This was super, So they get to the conference, 2-day conference goes, the conference ends, and they end up going back to the train station. And EPA, a learning organization, all right, so they're sitting there, and they thought, well, we'll do that. So they go up and buy 1 ticket and come back. And the DOE folks are standing there, and they don't go to the ticket office. And EPA says, well, you're going to go get your ticket? You know, it's a great thing. No, we're going to try it with no tickets this time. And EPA says, well, good luck. So they get on the train, and a couple minutes before the train's departing, if you're sitting in this train, here's what you would have seen. DOE gets up, goes in that one restroom. EPA gets up, and they go in the forward restroom, okay? So they're both in the restroom. Train starts moving. You're sitting there. All of a sudden, the back restroom at the DOE opens up. One guy comes out, knocks on the front restroom and says, ticket, please. EPA hands out their one ticket, okay? So, what's the moral of that story? One, I like to take jabs at EPA anytime I can, okay? So, that story originally, I think, was, I saw it with Ohio and Michigan State college kids, okay? So it fits a little bit better in that scenario, but I adapted it to DOE EPA reference. The tie-in to us is, as you go into this conference, we're here for learning organizations. We're here, NRC's learning organization, DOE and EPA, I know are. All the organizations here on environmental modeling. I was glad to see this. I was vaguely aware of this conference from my time in nuclear reactor regulation.
It's working, but the sun is on and off. The wall is, I don't know, because of the phone line.
Hello, we're on, if you're on the phone, if you want to put your phone on mute, that'll help. We're picking up a little bit of background. Well, with that story as the backdrop, I'll just go into the opening comments. Before I talk about this conference, I will let you know from an NRC perspective and environmental modeling, we've been rocked a little bit from the NRC for the last 7, 8 months now since Fukushima. And matter of fact, our office director, Brian Sharon, he's on an agency-wide steering group that meets weekly to figure out what the NRC will be doing on lessons learned from Fukushima. And I know that's not directly related to the business of today, but it is from a lot of ways when you talk about environmental impacts, environmental modeling, and lessons learned. So that's one thing I just need you to know. The NRC is still looking at our action and lessons learned from that. We've had several commission meetings. I know it'll be one of the topics of congressional oversight hearing that we have in December here, where our commissioners will go down. We are looking at trying to backfit some of the plants with better abilities in the U.S. to foresee, really prevent and mitigate actions of that type in the U.S. The original task force report, recommended that we see enough differences, both with the location and siting of the plants and the issues that we've done, that there were no immediate safety issues. But we are looking at 3 orders, a couple of rulemakings that'll impact all of the plants. So I don't know how much that's impacted all your agencies, but that is one thing that the NRC is still a little bit reeling from. Well, with that, I just have brief opening comments. I would like to welcome you all to this 11th annual meeting of the Interagency Steering Committee, Multimedia Environmental Modeling. We're pleased to note the diverse group, including EPA, all right? DOE, representatives from USGS, NSF, and NRC. It's my understanding that 5 of those agencies have completed the approval process for the second renewal of the Memorandum of Understanding for this group, and that more signatures are expected by the end of the year. From an NRC perspective, we do need strong, credible science and analytical tools, and that's one of the things I've been impressed with in the NRC research organization since I've been here for a month is the amount of energy they put into the background behind the tools that we use. And we know from the NRC that we can't develop these on our own. I don't know what the NRC research budget was. I was looking at it before I came over here. They were cut $10 million from last year to this year. So I know each of your agencies is forcing those type of budget cuts. So it only highlights the importance of the cooperation and the sharing that this steering group represents. NRC staff is committed to continuing this cooperation and coordination among all the federal partners, and we firmly believe it will enhance and improve our decision making. You know, I looked at the goal and the shared goal of the ISCMEM, and I thought it was neat, you know, to pursue a common technology and multimedia environmental modeling, you know, with a shared scientific basis. And the NRC's views on that is, and I reiterate them here just for emphasis, is to reduce redundancies and improve the common technology through the exchange and comparisons of environmental models. And just the fact of you all getting together and working through these partnerships, I applaud you coming up here on a Monday morning after Thanksgiving. We don't have coffee out here, all right? No muffins and no coffee. However, you'll have to point them to the direction of the cafeteria, which is just a short walk up the hallway on a break. So I'm sure we can get you to that cafeteria not too far away. You know, some of the benefits, as I was looking at the background for this group, and I just want to reiterate them, potential benefits from the cooperative efforts, the development of synergisms in common research efforts, and I firmly believe that that boosts the quality of each of the individual organizations' products. It does reduce duplication and redundancy, I would hope, and is a better use of public funds. And I hope, especially in these fiscal tight times, that these efficiency will enable projects of greater scope than any of our individual organizations can do on their own. You know, as a minimum, I would hope that we learn from each other and see what other agencies are doing, and then, at least in the future, play off of those studies for applicable aspects to the individual agencies. You know, I do recognize the contractors and the labs, academia that's involved here. One thing I've noticed from the research organization is the wide variety of individuals and organizations that we tap into on a regular basis for the backgrounds to what eventually becomes these rules and orders that I talked to you about that are happening. You know, just last week, one example of that was, you know, we put out two rules from the NRC. One was a final rule that went out really dealing with emergency preparedness. That rule was probably 7 or 8 years in the background processing, and not directly related to environmental modeling, but touching on it in a lot of pieces is the NRC and the public for years would ask, why is the plant up north of New York City, 20 miles away from New York City, treated the same way in environmental EP preparedness, emergency preparedness rather, and with all the issues that might happen, the same as Wolf Creek out in the middle of Kansas. You know, why are the rules the same? It was a tough question for the NRC to really answer, other than, well, we believe our 10-mile emergency preparedness zone is applicable and you want the same planning in place. Well, this rule was finally a way to talk about the differences in population and the differences in issues that you'd have. It'll still be fine-tuned again with Fukushima coming up. I expect that rule to be changed again several years from now to learn from that. But that was one example. The second example came out of research, and it was really a risk-informed rule looking at really what we call emergency core cooling issues, so very similar to Fukushima. But I was proud, being in research just for a month, to see in the cover of that rule that the background had been done 5 or 6 years ago on different fuel mechanisms, different failures of the fuel that weren't analyzed back in the 60s and 70s. And so it was direct result of research and organizations like this that have led to an improvement in emergency core cooling capability, which is an upcoming rule that's coming to the Commission. Well, that's, you know, finally 2 examples here, and I just encourage the continued sharing of the data and the models. I look through the agenda.